Welcome to the Esports Connected podcast. I'm your host, Megan Van Petten. I am so excited to have Lightware here today. They're one of our greatest new members, and they're a company of inventors. They do signal management. They specialize in audio, video, and data signals. They're constantly enhancing their solutions. Their mission is to provide new technologies should they support people's lives seamlessly, invisibly, just like air and water. Lightware wants to enable the ease for those who use AV equipment. Who wouldn't like that? They believe in the freedom of information. Information should be available to anyone that wants it. They do their best to expose information to users in the most simple and best format. Well, what's so exciting about today is we have Jason here who designs and delivers the solutions for these high resolution videos that are used for any endpoint. And his boss, oh my gosh, this out of the box, Jason Tirado, he wants to just be better every day. His goal is all things to keep his loved ones close, all his people working at Lightware to grow. He loves community. He's a great friend. He's a great leader. He's a must follow on your on all of your Twitter and all of your handles. Jason and Mike, it's my pleasure to welcome you as new members, gold sponsors for our event in August, and we're so excited to talk about what you guys are up to. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Megan. Gosh, what a great introduction. I mean, yeah, I think I got introduced twice. So Mike, I think we got to go back and clarify, your role in all this, because Megan said Jason and Jason again, but only inadvertently. So I think, Mike, tell a little bit about what you do, what your role is at Lightware.
So I'm one of our senior sales engineers here in North America. I design and provide the solutions to manage high resolution video in large scale environments and really any size environment when you're delivering video signal from a source to a destination.
Hey, Mike, you've done some work on major companies. I'd say there's a big one, a big entertainment company that has a lot of theme parks that starts with the letter D. And there's another huge company that provides a lot of people with phones that begins with the letter A, and you've done some work with those folks to try to do exactly what you just described. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe one of those applications and some of the challenges that came with it?
Certainly. I mean, with the phone/fruit company, their broadcast environments are being overhauled now. So when they do these live events that are both in person and virtual, a lot of times simultaneously, they are managing all types of different video signals around those broadcast environments. Whether they have 8K video walls, and they have numbers of different signals that come from different places within the room and different places remotely that need to be managed and displayed at certain times during their presentations, right? So that's the broadcast environment, in the large, group space is an area that we are making some real progress with. And
so you were actually talking to the engineers there that are responsible for this experience that people are going to have when they walk in this environment, right? And so you were going back and forth for months. What was one of the things that you recall Lightware was able to do that sort of finally got us in the position that we got into with those companies? What was it that you were able to bring that was unique and special about Lightware?
So the first thing that kind of brought them in was the fact that, wow, we can manage, 4K or HDMI 2.0 in full resolution, full bandwidth on a 10 gig network. But then we were also able to add the ability, to manage Dolby Atmos. Mm-hmm, so these video signals that they're pushing were not just, 4K 60 hertz signals, right? They were 4K 60 hertz signal with HDR and Dolby Atmos. And in our process of work, they kind of came to us and said, hey, listen, we can manage this stuff, on independently, but is there a way that Lightware can manage it alongside the video signal? And our engineers look at it and go, yeah, we can do that. And they created a custom firmware that's now available for everybody, but they were able to manage Dolby Atmos right on the video signal. And that was when the engineers, at the end customer said, oh, okay. Yes. All right. We feel comfortable that we can move forward with what we want to do here, because we see what the capabilities are and what your understanding of our needs and requirements are.
Megan, thank you, Mike. That was great and really insightful. I think one of the things that you started off with in your description about Lightware was that Lightware invents, and it's one of the things I think we're really proud of. And what Mike just pointed out is part of that story, because we have the engineering prowess and the engineering talent back at headquarters, because this is one of the premier universities that is the center of our business. And I kind of call it like, I don't know if you think of General Dynamics and MIT, in Boston, those are really well known. We're a university that's producing all these really, really high-end engineering talent. Then they go off and they commercialize it, and so General Dynamics would take all those software and mechanical and hardware engineers, and then they turn it into products that can be sold in the open market because they've got this font of talent and engineering prowess coming out of this university. And we've got a very similar story. The Budapest University is one of the top universities in Europe for software, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering. And our founder was a student at that university. And he started in his spare time, just kind of fixing projectors and fixing, little boards and things like that. And then as soon as he could, he hired his best friend. And then the two of them, got a little office apartment, and they started hiring other people. He's grown it now to the point that they hired their professor of engineering at the university. He now works at Lightware. And so they still call him the professor. And so sometimes, like when Mike is talking about a situation where a company will come to us and say, hey, we need something like Atmos developed, they'll go into the professor's lab, and they'll say, hey, professor, we need to do this. And then he'll turn to the whiteboard and start writing and scratching numbers and formulas and signal things like that. And so it's a very exciting and unique place to be in that you can have that much talent and that much dedication all there, right there at the headquarters, and being refreshed constantly. Because as those new engineers do, graduate from the university, this is someplace they want to go work, right? It's got a reputation there around the university. So I appreciate you saying that sentence about how Lightware invents. And that was just a little example, I think, of why it matters.
Every time I'm at our office in Budapest, the first thing I do once I say hello to everybody, I go right up to that fourth floor and I go and bug these engineers like, hey, what are you guys working on? Like, I got to see what's going on, because they're so deep into it, and they're very passionate about what they do, but they know how to fit things together to make them most appealing to the widest section of our end customers. So it's always like super inspiring, and says, I always get so charged up when I go see what they're working on, because I can go drop little Easter eggs, from that point to our customers. Like, you guess what we got?
And that's so cool, because you can't teach passion. And that's what excites me about your all's company is, engineering is super competitive. We know that. We know that you're in one of the most competitive industries, quite possibly. But there's something different, and there's a lot of soul and a lot of fun that comes out of this company. And that's why I was so excited to have you on the show and hear more about your founder, your philosophies, your values. And it sounds like such a cool place to work.
Well, we're very lucky that way. I'll tell you a quick story about our founder, because I think it's one of the things that really drew me to the company. And I say fall in love all the time, because I fell in love with Lightware when I got there. I was in Budapest, and I could feel my heart just warming up. This gentleman, when he was a child, was in Romania with his family during Ceausescu's reign, and they had to actually escape the country during this tyrant's reign. And he and his family, when he was like 7 years old, they crossed the border into Budapest looking for a better life. Now you think about the story of an immigrant coming out of Romania into Budapest to look for a better life with his family, and then being accepted into the top university, and then coming out and creating a company that's now worldwide and established all over the world. And one of the things that he brought with him during that journey was this idea we talked about at the top of the show, is this belief in the freedom of information. He came from an environment where information was not free, where people could not share ideas, where they were not allowed to speak their mind and embrace the democratic values that we hold so dear in this country. And he brought that to his product, which I think is so impressive, So now when you go into the product from a Lightware and you open up some of the software or the documentation, everything that our engineers that Mike was talking about, everything that those engineers know about what's going on in the product is exposed, it's open. And so we have this saying, right? If I know it, you know it, and you can have access to it. And it makes us very different in that way, because a lot of engineering companies are a little bit more secretive and a little bit more cloak and dagger than the way Lightware is.
Yeah, I know open API is your claim to fame, and I love that. But I also love that you guys talk about your latency. Tell us a little bit about that. Mike's like,
So
please.
It's always been, it's a fundamental principle of how we've gone about engineering signal management solutions when it comes to video, right? Going all the way back, we created the world's first digital video matrix back in 2006, right? And at the time, there was kind of a line in the sand that you kind of had to draw from an engineering standpoint. You could maybe manage more signals within one box, but you had to compress it and you had to shrink it down and inherently add latency to your video signal. And right from that point, there was a divergence where it says, no, we're not going to do that. We want what goes in is what's going to come out, and we have full bandwidth, and we have all of the things needed to pass video signals without compressing them. And that is carried through every single one of our product lines, every one of our product divisions up until now, right? To the stuff that we're using now today, we're managing HDMI 2.0 signals uncompressed, it's not scaled, there's no latency. And the testing that we did when we were first initially going through to see actually what the latency was, because there's never such thing as zero latency, right? But the instruments that we had to go find to measure this latency were things we did not expect we'd have to go find, because the latency is that low. That's a fundamental core principle of our company from an engineering standpoint, going all the way back, and even before the founding, really, or before we actually created those boxes, because they knew at the time, we can't have any latency on these signals. We want that switch time to be instantaneous.
I think Mike, you really described it perfectly, and I think it goes back to some of this value around the information, because Mike, video pixels are information, right? And if what you put in is the information somebody originally intended, and then somebody's compressing it, they're literally throwing out information. It'd be like, if you wrote a book and then somebody said, oh, well, we're going to give you the Reader's Digest version, and we're just going to throw out half these words and half these characters and half these sentences, and then we'll tell you what the story was at the other end. Well, that's not being true to the author's intent, and that's not being true to what the original information was. That's offering up an edited version of it, your edited version, and that's not us. That's not what we do.
That's why I read Cliff Notes in school and failed the book report. It's the same concept.
Somebody just shared this information with me, the power of information. It was CNN's highest rated news show has 700,000 viewers, and Joe Rogan's podcast has 11 million. That's the power of information today and podcasts. It's incredible. So, what a vision we should be so grateful for that your founder had and has, what a legacy. This is incredible. Did you guys know that when we had our conference in August last year in Chicago, we literally had a tour of Lightware's demonstration of the March?
No,
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, we love your work. And Brandon Brunheimer from AVI SPL literally brought whoever wanted to go on a side tour of the Mart. And that Mart here in Chicago, I think the Kennedys own the Mart. I'm not so sure. They used to. It's a beautiful light show. And several of our members went, and they were able to not only get the tour from Brandon, who was an excellent site tour leader. He also brought us behind the scenes to the bridge and areas where the lights were actually set up, or the technology was actually set up. Have either of you guys been to that location where that light show is?
I personally haven't, Megan, but you bring up something that's really, I think, neat. And that is that most people have actually seen Lightware, but they don't know that they've seen Lightware, and so Mike has been around at the company for longer than I have, but we could throw out a few shows. Cirque du Soleil, the Cirque du Soleil shows. If anybody's ever seen a Cirque du Soleil show anywhere in the world, all that graphics is supported by Lightware. That's a standard. If anybody's ever seen Blue Man Group in Las Vegas, Those shows are all supported by Lightware. They're some of the theme parks that people have been to and riding around on, if they've seen video projections, those are all supported by Lightware at some of the Orlando Universal theme parks. Mike, who are a couple of other major places that we could have seen some Lightware in?
Concert tours. Megan had mentioned this in the green room that, Elton John was just in town. Yeah,
you want to know what I did this morning? Or I'm sorry, not this morning, Saturday morning. I called my brother number 2 and I said, Jim, would you like to go to Elton John with me tonight? Front row tickets. And he said, Meg, I'm in Idaho. I can't believe it. I've always wanted to see Elton John. Now we grew up around the piano, singing Elton John. We grew up, he plays. And I said, all right, how about tea in the morning on Sunday with Sir Elton? And Jim was like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. But here's the thing. This was the funny part. I did not have front row tickets, nor was I meeting John for tea on Sunday, but he had several front row seats available for sale. It was a possibility to go. And I wanted to go. I wanted to go for to see Elton, hear the music and the show, the light show.
Absolutely. I think, Mike said Elton John, and that's obviously one of those top acts, that goes around the world. I mean, my gosh, that guy, he's been doing it for years, hasn't he? And then shows, Billie Eilish had a tour recently with Lightware products supporting her. Eagles, every time they go out, they've got Lightware supporting them. So if you've been to any kind of concert in the last, I'd say 10 years, and you've seen those big LED walls, there's a good chance that Mike Ellsworth designed some aspect of that signal transmission topology. And there's also a really, really good chance that was Lightware displaying those images up on the screens.
I was just in South Bend. They had an event. And I brought the show and we had a Lightware LED display behind me. And they're just amazing. It was in little, it was a magnet, portable display. It was just awesome. Brandon just took some of our wall. It was beautiful. It was probably the show will come out in a couple of weeks where your LED display was back there. What were you saying?
Let me just ask Mike, because Mike, you've been doing this for a while. What's one of the most challenging environments that you've ever had to design for? Or what's one of the most challenging things that somebody's ever come to you and asked us for?
So, some of the stuff that we're doing now because of the high amount of bandwidth required to push video signals and all those things, but really, as I was kind of understanding large scale video distribution, sports arenas and sports venues were something that were not necessarily the biggest challenge, but were challenging in the number of things you had to manage and where they had to go. Right. So video signals that are coming in when the team scores a touchdown, we got to put this graphic on those video walls. Right. And so they have a preset for, hey, here's the touch. All they do, there's a button, hey, press touchdown. And then your graphics go up and do all those things. But the actual behind the scenes of how that works is a lot of different, things happening all at the right time and managing it, right there. Because nobody cares, if your graphics go up like the play after the team scores a touchdown, that doesn't work, So designing these solutions where any video signal and any graphic has to go any certain place with a high number of eyes on it, right? You're eliminating your possibility for failures and you can't have dropouts. You have to have backups and all these things that kind of all go into making a proper video distribution system in big venues, because you're always having to deal with, it's not just, hey, send my computer up to that projector, right?
Yeah. Hey, so Mike, you just mentioned big venues, and Megan referred to one, but I want to go into it a little bit more. Can you talk a little bit about Illuminarium and sort of what that concept was and what Lightware brought to that for the UBEX?
So Illuminarium is a really, really exciting and fun way of really just it's a different form of entertainment, right? It's a physical space and a physical venue that you go to, but once you're inside of it, you're really in one big giant, immersive environment, right? I think the one in Atlanta used over 100 projectors. So, and it's not just one room and with all these projectors kind of edge blended together. There's different rooms, there's different parts of it. And as you move through the exhibition, you're seeing video on all of these walls at any given time. right? But the thing is, when you're using that number of projectors and you're using multiple projectors to make one big image, your signal has to be absolutely rock solid, because projector A is responsible for 25% of the image, and projector B is responsible for the next 25%. But if your refresh rate's off or your color space is off, you're going to have a line in the middle of your image that anybody can see and look, oh, what's that going on? So with the Luminarium, they said, hey, we got 100+ projectors, guys. Can we handle this? Can we actually do the things that we're envisioning to display on these walls? Is that possible? And we said, yes, because here's our HoovX platform. Here's how we're making this work. We're taking an uncompressed signal over a fiber network to ensure that all of these signals arrive where they need to arrive when they need to arrive there. Right.
That's a great description. I tell you, I was lucky enough to get to go to the opening of the Luminarium in Atlanta last summer. And they had taken these specialized cameras out to a safari in Africa, and they had created content specifically for this environment, the one Mike was describing. And there are hippopotamuses that are, enormous on these 23-foot high, walls. And you see giraffes walking like as big as giraffes really are, and rhinos and monkeys and everything. And not only do they do the video like Mike is describing, but they also spatialize the audio. So what I mean by that is if you looked behind you because you heard some birds, they would be running the audio track behind you because the birds were flying back there, and you would turn over your shoulder and you could see the birds flying and you could hear them exactly where they were going. And then this is crazy, but they were also, every time the elephants would walk, they would sort of bounce the floor of the environment a little bit. So you kind of get this feeling like, oh my God, I think I can feel that elephant as he's walking by. And then you can smell him and you can see him and you can hear him. So when Mike says immersive, it is a pretty amazing experience.
And I heard that you guys are going to do that at Navy Pier here too in Chicago. Yeah. When will that one be done? Because we should do an event there for the opening.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be 2023. Right now, they're just about to open the newest one in Las Vegas, Area 15. And so I'm actually on my way to Las Vegas next week to go do a site tour. But the rollout for those Illuminarium locations is supposed to be, Las Vegas. Then I think they're going to get to Chicago, Dallas. Then I think they're doing Mexico City. Then I think they're doing Denver. So they've got a whole plan over the coming years to roll these out so that hopefully many people across the United States and around the world will get a chance to experience it.
And some of the things that Jason's describing, the details of an immersive environment and an experience like that, the things that we're learning now today, the things that we're doing with these environments, we fully plan on being able to deliver in the esports environment. So, in the future, and not even very far off, I don't think that's what esports are going to be, right? You're going to have players and competitors sitting in spaces that are that level of immersive experience, right? So, and all of that is things that are, you see it slowly migrating, but migrating at the pace of technology, which in our brains is lightning fast. But that's all the things that we're doing now today. I fully see being possible and being used in esports in the very near future.
Well, your passion is contagious, I must say. And to the point that I just found out yesterday that you were formally invited to serve on our advisory board, Mike. Congratulations.
Thank you. Very excited.
Yeah, we're really excited, not just to have Lightware here as our partner, but boy, having you part of our advisory leadership is such an honor. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and why John, our chairman, decided to invite you to serve here, and let's hear how it all started.
It started out with in a conversation with Brandon. I believe back in the fall of this year, seeing some of the solutions that we're bringing to the market and the things that we're working on, and the amount of information that you have about a video signal when you use a Lightware solution. And Brandon was the first guy to say, "You guys need to be doing esports because we need all of this stuff." So it's like bringing us into the environment and introducing us to the association and the folks that are involved on the advisory level and at the kind of the executive level. We're not experts in esports as a whole. We're not going to know everything about every title that's out there, but what we are experts are video signals, right? And video signal management is a huge component of how esports are fundamentally delivered. Whether you're in a small, 3-on-3, gameplay style, small environment, or you're in a giant stadium environment, that's being viewed all over the world and all those things, you still need to manage video signals coming from a graphics card and going either to a monitor or to a display or those types of things. So we have a very specific set of skills and expertise that can be something that is leaned on as we design what the standards are going to be for esports environments moving forward. I think that was the biggest thing that was appealing in terms of Lightware and the association.
Yeah, well, we really appreciate your leadership and your partnership, and it's going to be a really great year with you guys. And you're also going to be having our entire community for lunch in August.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. When you and I first spoke back in December, and we were just kind of getting to know each other, and you told me about that amazing event that you hold, and you described the quality of people and the quantity of people and how it's growing so fast, and the venue that you chose. And then I went and I watched the videos, of the venue, and it just seemed like people were really having a great time for being at a conference. I mean, conferences are conferences, but these people look like they were really enjoying themselves. And I think that was the moment that I, in consultation with Mike and with Brandon, we decided, we need to go into this as big as we can. And so that was in conversations with you when we decided that we wanted to be a gold sponsor for that event. And yeah, we're looking forward to it. We've been doing a lot of behind the scenes work with our marketing folks to try to get the word out there about the Esports Trade Association. And we're certainly going to be doing a lot of marketing around the event itself, in August. And Mike will be there. I'll be there. We're going to be sending an entire crew to support the presentation. And yeah, we can't wait. Really looking forward to it.
So should we expect something immersive? Or is this more of like, I did see your all's booth at, was it Infocom? Wow. I mean, you guys really know how to put on a show, or, and I'm not looking for anything spectacular, but we do have Encore as a partner. So we're able to do whatever you guys would like. No pressure. We at the last.
You shouldn't ask us in front of everybody if there's no pressure.
On video, recorded.
Yeah, exactly.
We also last time we had AR/VR experiences at the conference, and but you guys could do whatever you want. Sometimes just hearing and learning and having lunch and meeting you guys is all there is. But you get to do. You get to present it the way you would like to present it. I was just personally excited when I'll never forget when I talked to Jason. I'm like, well, if you want the lunch presentation, it's got to be fun, Jason. At least fun. That's all I'm asking for. No boring.
I guarantee you we're going to bring some fun with this. I will make the fun as immersive as I can. So don't you worry. Well, we're going to bring immersion and we're going to bring fun. I can't tell you what kind of pixels and screens will be there, but I can tell you we'll be there with our fun.
Well, I have a funny story. LG provided us the screens, and we had some robots there during the last conference. And as you guys know, during COVID, trucking and delivery got a little jazzed up. So the hotel calls me the day before the conference, the day before we could load in, and says, you have a couple of robots and a screen in the alley off of Michigan Avenue. And I'm like, I do? Okay, I'll be right over.
Do they look friendly?
I took pictures. They were robots and screens in the alley. So there was no one to load them in. So I just found some poor souls that helped me push these, this technology into the elevator. I've never done anything like this. I have evidence, I have proof. But here was the bad part. It's an old hotel, because Chicago, it's old school, old classic Chicago, beautiful hotel. We couldn't fit the screen into the elevator. And I am working with the robots. I'm getting Cleo and Leo loaded, and I hear that the screen is getting back on a truck to go. My screen, my background. I hear this and I was like, no way, there's no way we can't have this incredible screen for our conference. It's esports. You know, this is, so I go around the front door and see that the elevator looks a little bigger through the entry of the hotel. And I grab a couple of more people and we push the screen down the alley, down the street of Chicago, through the front door of the hotel, wave really nicely. It fits into the main elevator. And that was that.
You've got what we call chutzpah, you know, chutzpah, that, yeah, you've got chutzpah.
So what's chutzpah? I've heard the word. And where does it derive from? It's not Latin for.
No, it's Yiddish. It's Yiddish. It means courage. It means courage, you know, or you know, the ability to not let something overcome you. You know, you will not be overcome, Megan. You're like a hurricane.
Oh yeah, like a gentle, quiet, nice one. So right. So my point is, whatever it is that you guys decide that you would like to do for this incredible gold sponsorship that you have, you know, the sky is the limit. We made really good friends. We're going back to the Hyatt Centric Mag Mile this year. And it was just it was really an incredible experience.
My brain is running wild now that we know these resources. I'm probably the wrong person to tell this to, because Jason's going to have to rein me in here soon, because a guy like me hears this. I was like, well, we could do a lot of stuff. Oh, I could do this. Can we do that? Like, you know, well, I have many ideas now that now that I know what our level of resources are.
Mike, if we had all the money and all the time and all the resources in the world, which we don't, Megan, this is kind of a dream. This is a dream scenario. But if Mike and I were to just sit back and think about it, you know what I would build? I would build a little XR studio. You know, wouldn't that be cool to have one of those little XR studios? So Mike, tell us a little about what an XR studio is, because those were used in some very well-known science fiction episodes recently. So what's an XR studio, Mike?
An XR studio is an external reality, you know, environment, right? So in the past, in order to put someone in a visual space where they are not physically located, you use a green screen, and you can put all sorts of stuff back there, make it look however you want. You could be at the White House, you could be on top of Mount Everest, you can do whatever you need to do. XR uses video walls on multiple sides of the stage environment. So floor, ceiling, walls, those are all video walls. So which then can be to have an image, you know, projected or displayed on all of these different sides, right? So instead of actually like being in front of a green screen and a mountain behind you, why don't we just put the mountain behind you? And so and I think that as we move, you talked about a little earlier, what that holds for esports, I'm thinking an XR studio with live gameplay, right? That's what I would love to do. You know, have somebody where, you know, me and Brandon duke it out, you know, playing.
I was
FIFA,
just going to say, doesn't Brandon have
whatever it is?
Doesn't he have an XR studio at headquarters at AVI-SPL in Orlando?
Yes.
So, I mean, that's, you know, what he's trying to do. You guys, and you were here yesterday, Jason, on that LinkedIn Live with Sharon and Jonathan. We're doing local chapters for that very reason, so people can experience that and you know, on a local level. So Brandon's launching the Orlando chapter of the Esports Trade Association, and we're literally doing the member meetup at his office in the XR studio.
Oh, so, that's fantastic. I mean, you know,
when you see the environment,
yeah,
when you see an XR environment live, it makes you understand. It's like, you know, like when you ride in a Tesla, right? It makes other cars seem like, oh, well, yeah, of course this makes sense. Like, so when you're in front of an XR stage, or when you're actually presenting on an XR stage, or playing a video game, you know, on an XR stage, it's like, oh, why weren't we doing this the whole time? You know, it's that level of understanding when you're physically there and you're in front of it. It makes so much sense, and it gives you the type of spatial awareness and the type of you know, kind of, you know, I'm actually here, you know, type of vibe that you don't get from, you know, talking to a tennis ball on a stick in front of a green screen. You know what I mean?
I love engineering. Okay. So I love, like, when you go to your all's website, it's what was it? Video engineering, like or visual, maybe it was visual engineering I saw, and I was like, I love it. So here's what I like what you just said. you know how you just don't know what you don't know, but you know you like it. It's like a 5-star hotel or a Tesla. It's so perfect. And that's what I love about your all's company, because you don't even know, but what you don't even know, you just like it.
You know, Megan, thank you for saying that. And look, you know, Mike and I have spent a lot of time together talking about this stuff, thinking about it. This is our lives, you know. And one of the things that we've come to the conclusion of is that when somebody uses Lightware, they usually, almost always, they use Lightware again. And it's because what you just described, they don't know what they don't know. And the first time they pick up one of our boxes, or the first time they see what is actually possible, they suddenly, their eyes open up, literally and physically and figuratively, you know, they suddenly go, oh, now I get what it is that I was missing. And I think that's what happened to Brandon when he came by our booth at Infocom, and we started that relationship with him. And that's what's happened in places where people can go to an XR studio. That's what happens when they go to an Illuminarium. They suddenly realize, oh, I've been missing all this information. I've been missing everything that's out there, and I didn't even realize it. And that's one of the really nice things about being in the position we're in, is to be able to provide that experience and let people walk away with this new understanding of what's possible.
The first thing that Brandon saw, that where he says, wait a second, was just making a simple switch, right? That was like just the act of making a switch, switching from one video signal to another, and to be able to press the button to make the switch, and the switch happens, right? Sometimes, you know, in large environments, in all different types of video environments, you almost get accustomed to, you know, with a compressed or with a scaled signal, pressing the button, waiting a couple seconds, and having the video there. So even for someone that knows this stuff and interfaces with this type of hardware on a daily basis, just the act of making a simple switch, which in signal management, that might be the most simple task that you each got to execute. Just that little thing will get someone, wait, okay. That's interesting. I'm not used to seeing that. What else do you have?
Exactly.
Then we show them the amount of information we have on the video signal, and he's like, okay, start from the beginning, because now I understand, right? I press the button, I see how it reacts. Now I get it. Now let's actually talk about what you have going on.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I remember when I first talked to Jason, and I was on foot, and I wasn't able to be in front of my computer. I didn't know anything, but what I knew is what you guys did. And I've been there. I saw it. I have a t-shirt. You know, we don't do a lot of digital display in Chicago, because the mayor or the somebody that's in charge of the lighting wants to keep us a quieter light display. It's just what I'm sure you guys probably hear, that there's some ordinance where it can't be that digitized, which is fine. I like that. So our light displays that we do have are done really well, like a Tesla. And Tesla's like just a great way, Mike, to talk about things. As me, I don't have a car. I get in Ubers every day, but when I get in a Tesla, it's a different experience. And I don't know what it is, but I'm like, cool, I got a Tesla today. And
you're talking to a guy who's born and raised in Detroit, in the heart of the Motor City. And even I get into a Tesla, and I was like, these guys kind of nailed it. You know, it makes, you know.
Well, speaking of the heart of Detroit, I'm going to tell you this. American cars are getting more comfortable, because I literally am getting in them all the time. So it's like, you know, have you tried an American car lately? I will go on record to say, I'm like, wow, the Cadillac, this is nice. I get the comfort now on Uber. And so I've been getting a lot of very comfortable American cars. Just
absolutely. But when you're in that Tesla, you know, it's those things that you see, like, oh man, I didn't know I wanted that until I had it. I didn't know I liked it until I experienced it and knew that, oh, this is now doing something else in a different car. It doesn't really seem like it loses a little bit, you know. It's just like
subtle greatness. There's just those subtleties. There's a point in every event. I've been doing events for my whole career, because with association management comes events, and there's a point in an event where I always stop in my track and kind of like tears go in my eyes, and I'm like, we did it. The event, you know, it's like there's just always that point in every event that I've ever done. It just always happens. I never know when it's going to happen, but it overcomes me. I'm by myself, and I'm like, oh. Where that's happening more now is the tech table. Our tech table went from, you know, being in the basement closet to being like the gold standard, the club you want to be part of. Our event committee, last event, I think it had between 20 and 40 people on it, volunteers. Our entire event was run by our members. You guys might want to consider it, because it was just an experience on top of the experience, watching this group of people bond over the course of 3 months of meetings. And, you know, that one switch, like you say, Mike, you know, and the toys and the club and the things and the gadgets and the, you know, the whole Radio Shack experience. It's really fun for me to witness. And I've witnessed that this last event for the first time, more collaborative than I've ever seen.
Yeah, to me, it's a look behind the curtain, right? We all go to these events and we all see these things happen. And sometimes if your event goes flawlessly and you did everything you're supposed to do, no one should even really think about necessarily how that's actually being done. But when you show it to someone and you show them what's behind the scenes of a large event, what it takes to be able to get that person on a projector or video wall just behind them, you know, along with all the other things that you need to be able to show people, like, oh, now you're showing what's behind the scenes, what's behind the curtain, and how you make that all work. And the technology that we're using to do that nowadays is really cool and really, you know, kind of cutting edge relative to what's available out there. So showing that to people to say, hey, not only can we do all this stuff and check it out, this looks cool, and like, you know, lasers and, you know, lights and all the other fun stuff that make it the oohs and ahs. Hey, here's how it's done. Here's how we make that work. And that can be its own separate little exhibition or own separate little thing that people get to look at and see and get a better understanding of how this stuff all fits together, you know. For sure.
You know, I wanted to ask you guys something, and Megan, I don't know how much more time do we have? Are we?
We have a few more, about 4 minutes, but
Okay,
we could go over. I mean, this is just so exciting. Well,
good. I'm glad. I got one more little thought, because you know how and Mike and Megan, this is for both of you. Maybe we can just talk about as we wrap up. But you know how in technological developments, there has to be one thing before you can get the other. You know, we spoke about Tesla, right? And the Tesla couldn't exist unless certain other things existed first, and then they could put them together to get you that experience. And Mike, you said something earlier that's got me thinking about video game developers themselves, you know, because I think for the past, they've had to imagine that their audiences were seeing things in sort of a two-dimensional, you know, screen, and that's what they've been developing for. But now that things are moving towards a more XR immersive environment where the image can be displayed not only on front of somebody, but on the sides, above, below, and really pull them into the whole experience like a holodeck, do you think that, and I'll ask both of you, I mean, do you think that that'll start to change the way video game developers think about the environments they're developing for?
I don't see how it couldn't, right? I think it would have to. And I'm very interested to understand what game developers are working on now, because a lot of times the titles you see released today have been in development for the past 3-4 years. And think about how far you know, our technology has advanced in the past 3 to 4 years. So I want to know, I'm assuming that what they're working on is beyond now is beyond the 2D space, right? And to understand, we work with some game developers just very recently, but we're doing stuff in their conference rooms, right? So I want to say, hey, cool, let's go sit in one of these conference rooms and have you guys talk to us about what's happening here and now. But I can, if they weren't thinking in that way, I'd be very surprised, right? Because we see what Illuminarium is possible, things like Illuminarium, what's possible today, and to bring that into a space, it would take a kind of maybe a deeper level of development, but it's still the same, you know, general concept of, you know, being immersed in the game. So what, not just on, you know, an Oculus headset or a VR headset, like no. Throw the headset away for now. We're in this game, man. So I'm very curious to see what they're working on, but I would imagine they're maybe further ahead than we anticipate.
I think they are, and we did have somebody that is a member that might be doing a field trip over to their warehouse where they are developing 3D games. And yes, so that's to come, kind of like your immersive experience, but we sure have come a long way since Miss Pac-Man, haven't we, Jason?
Absolutely. I'm old enough to remember that, so I know what you're referring to, but yes, we have come a long way.
We really have. So did you guys have any parting words that you wanted to share?
I just want to say thank you, Megan. You know, ever since we got to know you and had our first discussion, I can feel that there's this energy and enthusiasm and momentum around the Esports Trade Association. And I think it stems from the top. You know, all organizations, you know, take on aspects of their leadership, and you've got a great personality for bringing people together, making people feel comfortable, giving us a platform to be able to talk about the stuff that's important to us. And you do it very naturally and very easily. And I just, yeah, I guess that's it. I just want to say thanks for making it so easy.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Couldn't have said it any better.
Well, it's really just been an honor to do what I do, and I'm actually speechless. Thank you so much. That's so kind of you, Jason and Mike. It's been a pleasure to have both of you guys. I mean, we really are in this for the long run. We're not a like, let's get one deal and be done. We're in it to build relationships and have a great time together. And I really look forward to learning more about both of you and growing together. Thank you both for being on the show. And to contact Jason, or probably it would be Mike, please go to Lightware. Is it lightware.com? Or?
You can go to lightware.com. Absolutely. Yeah. And there's contact information for all of our offices around the world and for our offices here in the United States. So yeah, lightware.com. Please contact us. We'd love to help.
And if you have any questions for the professor, do you guys have any handles? We can
get you in front of the professor. Sure.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So any social media handles for the professor? I'm definitely excited to meet him someday. I'm thinking a trip to Budapest. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. It's been a great show.
Thanks, Megan. Take care. Thank you, Mike.